This story is going to make you uncomfortable. It has some cringy moments in it. But who amongst us has never made a mistake? What's important is that we learn from them. Today's story is called Finally Asked Out the HB7 Who Works in the Shop Next to Mine. HB7 works in the shop next to my own place of employment. I know that she works 4 days a week based on when her car is in the car park, but I've only seen this girl a handful of times. Never had a chance to talk to her in the 6 months since I've been here, but I know she's reasonably hot and takes her lunch break at the same time as me. This morning, when I was in the car park, she happened to walk out from her car, and I said, "Hey," as we made eye contact. She said, "How's it going?" And I said, "Pretty good." Then she went inside. Zzz. I went into my shop, turned on the radio, and instantly got reminded that today is Valentine's Day. Shit! I missed the perfect chance to ask her to get lunch with me, and now I probably won't see her again today. Damn. For a couple of hours, I was debating in my mind whether I should just walk over and ask her because, hey, it's Valentine's Day, what a great excuse. But I knew I would pussy out and not do it, because it might seem weird. But then a miracle happened. My boss told me that the girl next door needed to borrow one of our pallets, and that I should pick out a shitty one that we don't need and give it to her. Here's my chance. I moved a pallet out back and walked over to the rear entrance. Called out, "Hello?" And she appeared. As she walked over, I upgraded her to an HB8 because her face and eyes were nicer than I thought. I said, "Hey," and introduced myself and showed her where she could get the pallet from. That's when I had to do it. I haven't gone out and practiced heaps of approaches like some guys, so I still had a few butterflies. The conversation went like this. The radio reminded me that it's V-Day today and it's nearly 1 o'clock. Do you want to get lunch? Oh, nah, I brought mine to work. So did I. We could still go somewhere for fresh air. I'm kind of already on my lunch break. Alright, no worries. Have a good day. Yeah. There was no point insisting because I didn't want to be desperate. It's a little disappointing that her automatic reaction was to say no and not even inquire a little bit. It seems like a bad habit and I feel like she could work harder on that. I went back into my shop feeling pretty pumped that at least I took my shot. Then I heard some woman let out a big cackle of laughter through the wall. I know exactly what that was about. What a bitch. I'm sure anyway that the girl will be wondering all day about what could have happened if she said yes, so it's her loss really. Now, I'm glad I don't have to wonder anymore, and I look forward to being cheeky in the future if we cross paths again. I can just be like, "Oi, lunch," while winking and pointing finger guns at her. She knows what I want, and IDGAF, I don't give a fuck, anymore because the rejection has already happened. Too long didn't read, got rejected, wasn't so bad. More enthusiasm gained towards asking girls out in the future. Up next, we've got the analysis. Alright, straight up props to this guy for approaching a girl and taking that step. Good on him, I'm glad that he did that. As people who watch this channel know, cold approaching is not the solution to all of your problems. I have many criticisms of people who practice cold approaching on a regular basis and think that it's the cure-all for all of your women troubles. But despite the numerous problems with cold approaching, I do think that there is some valuable skills that you need to learn when it comes to approaching strangers to overcome your approach anxiety, your insecurities, and just generally add to your skill set when it comes to social calibration. Most importantly, you need to not fear rejection, and the best way to do that is basically exposure therapy, to get rejected and to realize that your world's not going to end like this guy did. He went for it, he got rejected, and he feels better because of it. That's good. Okay, so I've given him credit for getting out there and giving it a go. Now let's talk about some of the things that I see as wrong with what he did. Let's start by talking about his mindset. He realized that it was Valentine's Day because he heard it on the radio, and to him, this seemed like the perfect chance to ask her out to lunch. That is extremely concerning. I'm not sure what Hollywood fantasy world he's living in where women are just hyper-romantic creatures and it's like, oh, it's Valentine's Day. This is a perfect chance to ask her out because she's going to be predisposed to this chance encounter of destiny. No, the real world doesn't work like that. Women aren't as romantic as we've been led to believe. He said that he spent a couple of hours contemplating whether or not he should just walk over there and ask her to lunch because Valentine's Day was a good excuse. Valentine's Day is not a good excuse. It's not some permission slip that you've been granted that you can just go up to people and all other social norms are just gotten out of the way because, hey, it's this Hallmark holiday and women are desperate to be asked to have lunch with you. No, doesn't work that way. And so, as fate would have it, he does get his opportunity, and he runs into her quite organically with this shifting the palette thing. But there's a number of things that he did wrong here. The first of which is to mention that it's Valentine's Day. I think referencing that was a big mistake. It's not really relevant. It also signals a very clear romantic intention, and that's strange because you don't know her. You don't know if she's a great quality girl who you'd even be interested in being romantic with. So to start off the interaction like that automatically puts her in the frame where she's the prize and you're the one competing for her. That's a big mistake. What he should be doing with all of his interactions with women is approaching them with a healthy amount of skepticism. Hey, I'm chatting to you. I'm getting to know you. Obviously, I don't have any romantic interest yet because you haven't proved that you meet my standards. I don't know if you're a high quality woman yet. It's absolutely no surprise that she said no to this because he tried to jump from basic strangers to let's have lunch together in this romantic context. Now, from a social calibration point of view, that's just weird. And I'm not having a go at a guy, but straight up, that's weird. You don't make that leap from 0 to 100 just like that. You need to take the time to get to know somebody, to build rapport, maybe start a conversation off in a much more platonic manner. I know that there are some pickup coaches who recommend making a clear sexual intent from the outset. But again, I think that can only work in very rare circumstances. And if you're a very, very socially calibrated, high quality guy, then mostly they're probably willing to overlook it. In most ordinary circumstances, you take time to build rapport. You don't go from 0 to romantic just like that. There was also the problem with how he phrased it, because he made it extremely specific, which of course gives her the opportunity to say no. What he should have done was just talk to her casually for 5-10 minutes, try and find some things in common, and then asked a more non-specific question. Hey, we both work here, around the same age, we should get lunch sometime. If you say, let's get lunch together today, it's extremely easy for her to say, well, today I'm busy. But if you make it more general, like, let's get lunch sometime, let's continue this conversation, then it makes it a lot more difficult for her to say no to. Another interesting insight into this guy's mindset is the fact that he heard this woman cackling, this big laughter from behind a wall, and he automatically assumes that she's laughing at him because he got rejected. Now, I'm not saying that that's not possible, but let's just take into account the fact that he just got rejected, he's in an extremely vulnerable state of mind, and he's going to be assuming that everything in the world is revolving around him as he's got that fight or flight, like intense awareness sort of perception going on for him right now. The chance that there's some woman who's mean-spirited enough to eavesdrop and then laugh at somebody's rejection, that is possible. Some people out there are just terrible, terrible people. But I'd put it at like 15-20% at most. In all likelihood, I'd say that this woman was just laughing about something else, and he assumed that she was laughing about him. We all know that social phenomenon where you're in a room and there's a bunch of people and you're assuming that people are looking at you, judging you, thinking about you, and their behavior can be interpreted as how they're responding to you. But actually, every person in the room is thinking the exact same thing. No one's thinking about you, no one's looking about you, they're all thinking about themselves. I sincerely doubt that this woman's behavior and her laughter had anything to do with this guy. It might seem like I'm really having a go at this guy. I'm not. I admire anybody who has the courage to go out there, put themselves out there, to risk getting rejected. So good for you. But there are a number of mistakes and worrying things that I see in your mindset that I really think that it's important to go over, and hopefully other people can learn from that. Like this one in particular, I find extremely concerning. He thinks that the woman will be wondering all day what might have happened if she'd said yes, and that it's her loss. This is the world that he lives in, where he thinks that that's reality. That is not reality. I doubt that this woman would have given him a second thought. Women are flooded with romantic and sexual options all day, every day. They're not worried about missed opportunities with guys who make a casual request for a lunch. That sort of thing will not register on their radar. Even if she's a HB7 or an HB8, as you said that you upgraded her to, that's still pretty enough to warrant a lot of male attention. I think that you're assuming you're playing a much larger role in her world than you actually are. So moving forward, I think that the most important thing that this guy needs to focus on is changing his mindset, to move out of the fantasy of Hollywood romance and into reality, to understand that women have many, many options, and that she's not going to be waiting around on Valentine's Day hoping for some synchronous event where this guy dashes up and sweeps her off her feet. That's just not true. That's not reality. I also don't think that his approach of looking at her and pointing fingers like a gun and saying, "Oi, lunch," is a good idea at all. Again, what it's assuming is this shared rapport, this shared understanding that this event is going to have equal significance for them both when she turned him down for lunch. that's not going to be the case. I would say in a week or two, she probably won't even remember this situation or this guy. Now, that might bum you out to hear that, but what it actually means is that you've got a clean slate. I don't see anything in this situation, even though it wasn't fantastic, but I don't see anything that necessarily prevents you from speaking to this woman in the future and trying again. But you need to do it in a completely different way. You need to not come out with a romance, not have all these crazy mindsets that are, disconnected from reality. What you need to do is just speak to her like a normal person, chat to her about her day, get to know her in a friendly way. And then if she's a cool girl and you can see that she's a cool girl, you can start to qualify her, say, wow, you're actually pretty fantastic, you'd make a pretty good girlfriend, or this is interesting, I didn't expect to, but I like you, we should spend more time together. However, most importantly, I think this guy just needs to completely forget about this girl. He struck out, not good, time to focus on other girls. Go out, do some approaches, learn from your mistakes, try things out, that's the way to go. Now, if in a couple of months you organically run into this girl again and you're swimming in abundance from the rest of your life with a whole bunch of girls, maybe you can approach it again. But I think to overthink this and to try and calculate a way to enter into her world and enter into her mindset, that's just disastrous. Women can sniff it out. They're extremely intuitive. It's not going to work. So I would say just completely forget about this girl, learn from your mistakes, move on to some other women. Maybe the option will represent itself in the future. Maybe not. What do you care? You got plenty of options. All right, up next, I'm going to look at some of the comments left on this story from Reddit. At least he took a swing. In time, he can fine-tune his skills and hit one out of the park. Most incels freeze before lifting the bat. Yes, absolutely, I agree with this. The most important thing is that he took action and he tried. The fact that he failed is not really that relevant. The fact is that he gave it a go. That's what's awesome. I'm with you 100%. The Valentine's Day line was not that bad. Yeah, I think it was. The Valentine's Day line was terrible. If she was attracted to you, she wouldn't care what you said. It's not your line, but how you say it. Yeah, no, there's a little bit of truth in that. If you were an extremely high value guy and that was obvious, really good looking, all that social status, then maybe she'd just overlook if you messed up a little bit. But still, that Valentine's Day line, it's just indicative of such a wrong mindset. I think it was a terrible, terrible line. You have a lot to learn. Women don't get hot for that BP Hollywood cute shit. She wants Chad to treat her like a fuck toy. I mean, what is there to add? I think the oi lunch will work wonders. Alright, I don't. Nothing builds character like rejection. I gotta stop taking them so personally, and reading stuff like this really helps. Yeah, that's exactly right. Look, based on your brain from evolutionary psychology, back when we were living in caveman days, you used to live in this tiny little tribe of, 100 people. And if you got rejected, then that girl is going to speak to the 5 other girls that are in your age range that are potential mates. And they're all going to know that you got rejected. And the chance of you never reproducing and never mating is extremely high. And when you get rejected, all of those feelings like, oh my God, I've just blown my entire chance to ever be with a partner, that comes flooding up and it feels absolutely terrible. But it's irrational in the modern context. And you're only going to know that if you get rejected a whole bunch of times. The world has 3-4 billion women. I mean, a lot of them you don't want to date, but there's still enough that if you get rejected, it's not the end of the world. You just move on to the next person. Now, we can say that to each other. You can read this on this comment or watch a video like this and it will help. But really, if you're scared of rejection, there's nothing else to do. You just got to go out there and get rejected until you're desensitized to it. All right, that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a story that you'd like me to do a video on, make sure to send me a private email. If you want to support the creator and access our private community, then go over to Patreon. Check me out. If you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you again next time.